Hi, and welcome to Female Entrepreneurs Magazine, your go-to platform for ambitious women who are ready to take the business world by storm. I'm your host, Angel France, and each week we'll dive into the latest strategies, stories, and success secrets from the most inspiring female entrepreneurs around the world. Whether you're just starting out or scaling up, this is your space to connect, learn, and grow alongside a community of trailblazing women who, just like you, they are making their mark in the world of business. From personal branding to powerhouse marketing, from leadership to lifestyle tips, we've got you covered. So get ready to ignite your passion, fuel your purpose, and unlock your potential with Female Entrepreneurs Magazine. Let's make this journey together and turn your entrepreneurial dreams into reality. Hi, and welcome to The Real Female Entrepreneurs. Our next guest has a unique worldview from being a college professor and a child of Mexican immigrants. She has a deep passion for social justice, equality, equity, and accessibility, especially for the Latin community. Growing up, she watched families and neighbors take part in a community money circle. She knew that while she was growing up, this old age tradition worked. However, there had to be a better way to modernize it. She got to work and built Rosca. I can't wait to hear more about this because I am so intrigued. Help me welcome the woman who's shaking up the financial world, Cindy Chavez Swenson. Hey, Cindy.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God. So amazing. So tell me exactly. So you got a little bit about watching people as they, grew up and playing with money back and forth and using different things. So can you explain to me what Rosca is first?
So Roscas, and in the Latinx community, we refer to them as tandas, cuchuvales, cundinas. And if you think about a rotating savings account, we have access to those in a traditional banking system. And that's what it is. It's a type of microfinancing outside of the banking system. So it's crowdfunding, but also in a way, a savings or a loan, depending on the order of which you receive the money. Everybody gets the funds. These are actually really how money was moved before there was a brick and mortar bank tellers out there. And traditionally, our culture, we still have them because we are big on social currency. We believe in communities, especially as immigrant communities. We work together to, succeed and grow financially in a world and really a country that maybe we're not familiar with all the financial rules, all the financial systems that are out there. So money circles are just ways for us to do savings, lend money, help each other out, but everybody in the circle gets the funds.
So it's like a community together that you create that creates it, but it's an app, correct? As well?
Yes.
So explain that to me if you don't mind.
Of course. And what's interesting is my husband and I come from two different backgrounds, and I kind of explained to him one day, 2015, I can tell you the day and the year that it happened. I was at a conference out in Arizona, and it was a tech conference. And keep in mind, my background is in English literature. So I'm coming in from the humanities, and I feel like the universe was like pushing me there. I received a grant to go and attend this the ASU Summit conference out in Arizona. I went there and it was just amazing. The technology that was growing in 2015, obviously things have changed. And I had brought up the conversation with my husband, like this would be a great opportunity for people to update what tandas are. My husband's like, what's a tanda? And I said, well, so I explained to him how, and everybody has their own sets of rules of how they do a money circle. Everyone is, kind of creating their own way. And I said, it'd be great if somebody updated this system that works And he's like, well, why don't you do it? Well, this is 2015. I was very not new to the world of technology, but it was something where I felt like you needed a degree in tech to be able to do this. And I said, no way. And I looked at how much it would cost to create an app. At that point, it was really cheap. It sounds expensive, but what we've done now is obviously a lot more. So it was a $20,000 to create a fintech app at the time, approximately. And I said, no way, no, no, no. Keeping in mind, at that moment, I realized I had to heal my own money wounds. I had to heal my own scarcity mindset. I had to work towards seeing myself in abundance and not being afraid of taking and entering a world that maybe wasn't familiar with me. I really did have to go back to my, immigrant roots, where it's like we go in because we want to grow and we want a better life for not just ourselves, but our families. And so 2015, and obviously it was a barking dog. I kept saying, not me, someone needs to create this. I kept saying that over and over. Somebody needs to create this. Then 2020 happened. Obviously, we all remember that time. And it was a time for me to just kind of explore and think about it. But again, there's a lot of fears with like, how do I enter this tech world? I don't know anything about building an app. And then what actually pushed me, and I feel at the time it was, bad tasting medicine, but like Steve Jobs said, it was the patient needed it. I was promoted in one of the universities I was at, and because of budget, they gave me the promotion, and then sadly they rescinded the offer 6 months later, about 2 weeks before I was supposed to start. And while many would take that as a kind of, I did, I was not happy about it, obviously. But I realized I needed to create opportunities and stop waiting for them. And this is when I went full force. I'm going to create the app. I went in, it had to be, it was all or nothing. I said, if I don't do this, it'll be a barking dog for the rest of my life. I should have done it. And here, it's already been about 8 years at that point. And so I needed that. I needed that push. They rescinded the offer or the promotion, but I was still able to teach in obviously the original position that I had. And so what I did is, instead of being angry at the system that I was in, I said, I'm using this disappointment to fuel me into the app. I initially started with a business consultant. I needed to know the world of business, because it's not just about building an app. It's like, what is it? What goes into it? So I started meeting with a business consultant. She and I worked together for about a year. And it was a lot of, where are my money wounds, scarcity mindset, abundance. How do I see money? And it was like the psychology of it all. I needed that because I only saw money as one way, which is you work for it. That's the only time I saw money. And so once I worked on that, and I'm still working on it. It's an ongoing process. I went in, and one of the things she said is contact 3 different developers, and then you go with the one that you feel is the best. And it really became intuitive. Like, I used my own intuition. I contacted 3 different companies who were app developers. I ended up going with one that was a little bit more costly, but it was more because I wanted to be able to use them for as long as possible to help. And basically they were going to be my people for a very long time. And they're still my people. I've created wonderful relationships with them. We've seen our families grow. It's just become a community of support through this wonderful company. Once I had the app, that was just a starting point. It took a while to get the app going. And then everything else that comes with it is really where I'm at now.
So, okay. So I'm going to go back again. I love that's how you got into being an entrepreneur. I love that. Yes. You're still a college professor as well.
I am. Yeah.
And you have a family. Am I right?
I do.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you have a full-time position. You started your own app, which is a fabulous app. And I want to dive a little bit more into that, if you don't mind.
Of course.
And how it physically works. Because I know you originally did it because of the world you came from, the immigrant world. However, who's it really for? And can anybody use it and stuff like that?
Yes. Anybody can use it. And it's interesting because now that I'm here, I very much had it connected to people who already knew what money circles were. But now I'm like going out there and I'm teaching people what money circles are, and like how they're so wonderful for people to raise funds. And the big question is, what if someone doesn't pay? And this is where social currency is extremely important. You select the people who are in your money circle. You decide who's in it. if you have somebody that isn't going to pay, and sometimes you don't know that once money's involved, but this is where our app is really helpful, because the only time money circles are illegal is if you are moving a large sum of money. And usually on average, money circles are about $2,400 per person. So that's not illegal at all. It's mutual aid. It's what it's under. But what ends up happening is that without the app, there's actual no proof that somebody was in the money circle. So then you have now the app to show like this person signed up. They clicked on the terms and conditions. So it's in a sense a type of insurance for you as a money circle creator to show like this person committed to paying. And so for me, it really was about creating an app that not just mirrored what we do with money circles outside of the technology, but also showing how we can use our communal support to grow funds. And it's not just having the funds, but also using it to buy a home, save for emergencies, pay for your books if you're a college student, pay for medical emergency bills. I mean, that's happened before, and things like that. That's what Money Circles is, when you come together as a community and help each other out.
Wow. So it's much broader than just a financial. It actually brings together people as a whole.
Yes, it really does. And you start recognizing, especially with money involved, you start really thinking about who your people are. You really start thinking about, and there's a lot of, I would say, strings and kind of this negative aura with like talking about money and borrowing money from friends and family. But realistically, especially with the economy right now and the cost of things, it's hard for people to go out there and get a loan for a down payment for a car, or, having to do a lot of these financial things, or your car breaks down and you don't have, and I'm thinking oftentimes of college students, you don't have, $3,000, out of pocket to pay this, especially if you're a first gen student and you're relying a lot on your financial aid or anything else. But really, Money Circles it's not just about the financial side of it. It's about creating community of support through really hard times. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're just like, I'll join the circle. I don't need it for anything, but it doesn't hurt.
Well, I'm thinking from a business perspective as well, to gain funds for female entrepreneurs.
Yes. And, I love that you brought that up, because that's actually how a lot of money circles are used. There's an article out there about a woman who started her taco truck stand, and really it came from a lot of women, and it's, believe it or not, a lot more women. I think it's 70% of women are the ones who start the money circles, especially because, financially they were maybe not employed or had access to the funds that, say, their full-time partner had funds to. But yeah, starting businesses, getting a down payment to buy your first taco stand, or, to even like start an online business, something where you can have that starting community foundation through the Money Circle. And our app is just there to help vet that and organize it for you, when you don't have to do it on a piece of paper, Excel sheet, which, those are wonderful.
So, all right. So we know you have a family. How do you balance this professional life, running this app, and managing your family and doing all the activities, especially during the season right now?
Yeah, so it's very similar to Money Circles. You have your people, I am beyond grateful for my husband, who never says no to me. I call myself, and my husband can agree to this, is he calls me a mad scientist. I'm always up for an adventure. And but sometimes it's just a cognitive adventure where I come up with these ideas, and really the app was one that would not leave my mind. You have business ideas as entrepreneurs, like that would be a great one, but actually the one that I kept bringing up was this app. And so I have he really keeps me grounded. We help each other out. There's times where I am going to a lot of conferences, and he will take on anything that he can to help me and not be stressed. I know there's a big movement with like not having mom guilt, but I have it. I don't like to miss things. I made a promise, we only have one. And I said, I'm going to be there as much as I can in anything that she needs me. But yeah, I also recognized after the pandemic, they don't want you around all the time either. Kids don't want you. They need their space from you too. And so my parents are wonderful. When my husband and I need support, they will come in. So it's really like the money circles. We have our community of people that help us, especially during the busy times where, our daughter has soccer, or she has tutoring, or she has her nature school. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it is about your community.
I'm finding that that is like a whole given thing, is just the organization and community of putting everybody in a place to support one another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, I feel like I wish there was a book. I mean, there's a lot of books out there. Obviously, I'm an English professor. I know that there's a lot of books on how to, as a female entrepreneur, how that works. But realistically, every family is different, and everyone's demands are different. And throw in a wrench, somebody gets sick, then there's that. And you were supposed to go to a conference, and all things have been moved around. And I think also going with the flow, I think it's really heavy sometimes where you have to miss a conference because, you're sick even. And I get this FOMO of like, oh my gosh, what if that person that was supposed to help, scale the app is there? And you really get caught up in your mind. Your mind can be your best friend or your enemies in this entrepreneur world. So I really had to say, remind myself that there is a reason why this happened. And I know it's cliche, but I need a rest. Maybe that's what my body's trying to tell me right now, that I should stay home and rest. I mean, that's what I tell myself, so I don't get caught up in the I need to go moment.
No, that's a good thing because, things happen to teach us a lesson. I believe that
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
And I think that would be a fabulous book for somebody to give all kinds of examples of things that could possibly happen.
Oh, and it's always at the best time too.
It is. All right. So what advice do you have for women that are just starting out? They're thinking, oh, I want to start a business. I just don't know what I'm going to do. I just don't know how to get started. Or even, I mean, your aspect of it. How in the world do I get finances to do this?
So that's the hard part. I think for me, it's I got a lot of doors shut initially because I had the mindset that I needed to get a venture capitalist. I need to get a VC. I need to get funding that way. So then with my business consultant and we sat through and said, like, what would it cost to build an app and a business? And one thing is my strength is I can work a lot. I think that's something that I've learned from my parents. My dad is extremely hard worker. And I realized that's a strength that I can use. So when I saw it would be about $200,000 to even start my business. It's easy, especially if you have like a lot of money wounds to carry. Like that's a lot. I could buy another house with that. That's a lot of money to put on me. But then I realized, if I don't bet on myself, how do I expect somebody else to do it? If I don't believe in myself to help my money grow, how do I expect another person to believe in me? So I invested in myself. I obviously have not quit my day job. I ended up building it slowly. And so what I would do is teach an extra class that would go to build my website. I would teach summers that would go to have my branding and my brand voice. I would, like I said, it was about strategy, and I was able to do it. The app was probably the most costly one. And once I got the app going, and again, I had to invest in myself, then the foundation was set. Once a foundation was set, then I felt like I could go out there and show people what I am capable of doing with zero investments, like other than my own investments. And I had to do it differently. On average, I think Latinas in the US probably get less than 1% of VC funding. And I sometimes can't even get in the room. And I'm not against it. I just had to stop believing that's the only way that I can do this. And so looking at the different path and being really creative with the funds that I had, because it's easy. I think if you say in your mind, I need $5 million to do this, then you start believing that. But in my mind, I said, what can I do with $2,000? Like, what is it? And then what you also do, and I want women to, female founders who are starting this journeys to look back. That was something not only my business consultant said, but my husband. He reminds me every year, look back at what you've done, because it could feel as an entrepreneur like you're running in place, like nothing's happening. You get one door shut, another one, and every day you're building something slowly but surely. And sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the next step that you forget all the steps that got you there. And so for me, it's always like once you hit a milestone, you got to look back and think about like where you were at last year or even the year before, and really praise yourself of recognizing that you've made it this far with just teeny tiny steps. And sometimes, like I said, it feels like you're going in place and you're caught in the wrong spot, or is this even what I'm supposed to do? It's a lot of questioning, but a lot of self-reliance.
So that was for the women that are just starting out. What about
Yes.
somebody who's been around for a while? I love the look back that you said, look back at those milestones, but what they're struggling and they're trying to decide what's my next step. I'm a little frustrated here. Any tips?
I think that's where I'm at. I think when you meet milestones, it's easy to keep moving it, and I'm still learning. So please know that I'm speaking from like, personal experience. My moment is to enjoy where I'm at, because I feel like I get caught up in, okay, I did this. Now what's next? And I think, somebody I work with really closely, she says new levels, new devils. Like each time you got to remind that, every time you move to a new goal, there's going to be new challenges, and not looking at the challenges as negative. I have learned that as not just an educator, but also recognizing that challenges are showing growth. And now, even though sometimes I hate these challenges, I welcome them because I know that I'm growing and I'm entering a new chapter and a new phase. And if I've hit a milestone where I don't know where and this is what I do tell myself, I'll sleep tomorrow, I'll figure it out. I'll sleep on it and not feel like I have to fix it right now, because it's easy to also get caught up in that like quick, fast pace, especially in tech, where they're like, the next person's going to take it from you. And the unicorn, you won't become a unicorn. There's a lot of this like anxious conversations on like becoming the next best thing. And I keep telling myself, I just want to be a donkey. Maybe there's a unicorn out there that I'll turn into, but right now I just need to keep going slowly but surely. And so for the people and the women who are, in the trenches, who've been in, for many years already, and just also trying to give yourself that confidence and the motivation. It's always, welcoming those challenges, but also giving yourself grace. I think rest is something that entrepreneurs, as we know, is really hard. I feel like I can wake up, I could stay up 24 hours and get something done. It's so easy to have that mindset, but I know the feeling of getting a good night's rest and waking up and being like, I'm ready to tackle this obstacle now. Yesterday, not so much, but today, yes.
I usually say, okay, I have to dream about this and show me the best outcome so I can do it.
That's an amazing way, because then you're like, I need to go to sleep right now.
Yeah. All right. Knowing what you know now and what you've learned in business so far, all right, what would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, that your imagination is gonna be what gets you far. I think because you're told a lot, especially for my generation. I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s, and it was a whole, you need to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping now that the conversations are changing and that pressure is not so much gone, but at least it doesn't hinder you to the point where you feel like you need to figure it out. And I realized I had an amazing imagination and creativity that I didn't really nurture, because it came back to like, is this going to make me money so I can support myself? There's a lot of that. Not that an English professor was any different, but I loved my field and I felt that I could grow in it because of how much I loved it. And it's the same mindset now. I feel like there's 18-year-old me. That imagination is actually what's going to propel this business off the ground. And it really has. My creativity, my imagination, I'm not going to do it like everybody else, I'm going to do it my way mindset has worked for me. Now, it doesn't always work, but at least in this world right now, it has. And I'm excited about it.
So what about in the new year? We're in the new year almost. All right. Yes. So yes. How do you plan for the new year? Coming up to a new year, how do you plan?
So actually, I just sent my husband a text message about this. And it says 2025 goals. Okay. And it's interesting because my first year as an entrepreneur, I was very much, I'm like, what's going on? Just like aimless. My second year was go in full force, do all this. And so what I'm wanting to do now is learn from every single year that I've been out there and look at what worked and what didn't work. I ended up really putting myself in really stressful situations where I kept saying yes to everything, and I thought that was the only way I could grow as an entrepreneur. But I recognized that those were probably what was stressing me out the most is this trying to figure out like who's going to do pickup, who's going to do drop off, how am I going to get to this event? Should I fly? Should I drive? For me now, it's those events and those moments will be on an emergency basis. Like this needs to happen, like if I need to do this, I will do, put myself in that stress, stressful environment. But now I'm also recognizing I don't have to say yes to everything. I could be very selective on the things that I'll be doing for 2025. I want to make sure that it's not hindering my creativity, my imagination, my sleep, my daughter's needs, everything like that, where I feel like the best care for myself is to care and grow. And that'll in turn help my business and my company grow is by nurturing myself first. So 2025 goals started off with a couple of things. The number one, we're big right now into marketing. So our goal is to have 100,000 app users by the end of next year. And because of how money circles work, if you get one app user, you technically get 10 because the only way they can use the app is by having 10 people at once to grow their circle. So my goal is to have 100,000 by next year. Once the way we're going to be working on that is going out there, marketing, connecting with people. I think going back to my strengths, I've been an educator for so long. I love talking to people. I'm an ambivert. Some days I want to be out there and talk, and other days I'm like, I am going to sit here and not leave the house for a few weeks. I get in those moments, and I think we all do. But I really am pushing this year is just connecting with people so they could put a face to the app. Just like money circles, trust is a big one. Our goal is that they see the person who created it, and it's a person who invested their own money to build this. And if they see my face, they see that I'm familiar with money circles, they'll most likely use it instead of saying, no, it's okay. So marketing is our big 2025 goal. And also our user base and building the app. We've beta launched the app. So we're fixing those little glitches. Also perfectionism. Again, generational upbringing is it has to be perfect. No, it has to be strong. That word in itself doesn't even exist. And it's hindering, and I see it, as an educator with my students where that can prevent them from moving forward is because they want to be so perfect that it paralyzes them. And so for me, it's like learning to connect with our users and seeing how we can improve the app.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up the fact of perfectionism. One of the people that I interviewed said, you know what, get it to 80% and fix the problems.
Yes.
Get it to 80%, fix the problems. Everything is fixable and repairable.
Exactly. And yeah, there's it's easy for you to get caught up in oh my God, there's a typo here. Again, coming from like an educator side, and I get really anxious about those because I'm like, I should have caught that. And I said, no, again, being really cognizant that no one else will notice it. Like at the end of the day, no one saw those two spaces there. I did, because obviously it's what I've been doing for 20 years, which is another problem. But I really want to give myself grace in that, and that my users will tell me what works and what doesn't work for the app. And it's about growing organically and not feeling like I have to rush. And in fintech startups, I don't think they make it. I think only 25% of them make it past their first year. I'm going into year 3. So that says a lot about them. The reason why they're called unicorns is because, again, that mindset of like, you won't survive your first year. And I can't live that way. I need to make sure that I grow organically and make sure that I have the consumer in mind more than anything. Who is going to be using this app and why, and how can I make it stronger? And that in turn will help me create not only a great app, but also a great company.
I love the fact you brought up the two spaces. Those of us who went to school in the 80s used two spaces sometimes.
Right. They say they could tell the generational differences. Yes. And now it's like no one does that anymore.
Yeah, so that's funny. I love the fact you brought that up. And I love your marketing strategy because that is just such a key. So, what is a key strategy that you've used in the past to grow your business that seemed to have worked, that people were like, oh no, don't do that?
You know what? It's one that I even said, don't do that. I didn't think LinkedIn would be my space. And it's interesting because I always thought of the big, like Facebook, Instagram, which again, those are great spaces, but I connect with a lot of people on LinkedIn. And that has been a great tool for me to just not only both like the tech world, but also the app users. So that's one of the areas where I can get both. I never had personal social media. I'm one of those that I know myself so well that I can get caught up in doom scrolling forever. And so I am, and I'm not saying I didn't, because I'm going to age myself right now, but I had MySpace, I had Facebook, early stages. I clearly remember when Facebook first came out. I actually lived in South Korea at the time. I was teaching English out there, and I went all over Facebook. I was so excited. But as I grew within my own self, I recognized I don't want to do social media. I don't want to do it. Now I'm realizing that social media is where it's at for us as an app, as a culturally specific company, but also an app that can do mass outreach with very limited funds, and you could do it for $0. And so what I thought would not work was social media, and it's actually been what's driving this.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great connection platform for most people.
Yeah, and I never had one because I said, well, I don't need a job. There's that, again, you get caught up in your own mindset, and I just never created one. And I've been a very private person in my life because I started teaching when I was, 23 years old. And I always felt like there had to be a major divide between who I was in my personal life and who I was at work. Not that I was anybody different, but I just needed that, division. And I felt social media wouldn't give me that. But now that I'm in this world as an entrepreneur, but also in tech, I need social media more than anything right now.
It's a great way to market. It really is.
It really is. It's a great way. And it's what I laugh at myself now because I was always like, social media is evil. It's the devil. Don't use it. And now I'm like, who else needs my Instagram account?
So can you share any future plans or goals for your business that we should keep an eye out for?
Yes. So we are, like I said, we beta launched it. We have app users. We grew, I think the first day that we launched, it was 45% increase. And so we are just organically growing, and it's like word of mouth that has helped us grow. Again, we have social media too, but our 2025 goal is, so our first goal, every 1,000 new users that we get, we are doing a giveaway, which is an iPad. And then we connect with Cultura Rim Paste, which is a wonderful chamoy company that's out there in San Diego. It actually is my cousin's company. So she and I together, we're just supporting each other in any way. Again, going back to just being a female entrepreneur, we know the struggles of our families. Her mom is my mom's sister. And so together we've just launched this opportunity of getting people in her world to use my app, but also in my world to use her products. So
what is her product? What is her product?
Chamoy. So chamoy is a cultural paste that we use. It's we call it. We use it for Mexican candy. And if you've ever had any type of Mexican candy, the paste kind of tamarind or tamarindo, that's what she does. So she creates a powder. She creates for your margaritas, for your micheladas, all of that. She does all of those. And again, our families, we are immigrant children, but we have dreams. And I think that's one thing that no one can take away from us is our dreams. And then our goal is to just push forward. So we are doing a partnership with them. And our goal is to every new 1,000 users, everybody will get we'll do a drawing. And from there, they have the opportunity of getting an iPad and some Chamoy products from Cultura Rim Paste. And then that's for 2025. But then we are working with several banks right now, create possible, and I say possible because that's actually our goal, is to get a bank partnership. With the bank partnership, we'd be able to become a partner with the bank, and obviously the app will be housed within their banking system, and people can actually move the money within the bank itself. So right now we're a social app, which means there is no money movement, but once we get a bank partnership, people will be able to move their money in there, help their money grow, reinvest it in, buying a house, getting a business loan, things of that nature with their Tanda fund. So that's our goal for 2025. We've been talking to a couple of banks. We hope that this year is when it happens.
Oh, we're going to keep our fingers crossed for you.
Thank you. Thank you. So are we.
So what's a superpower you would have for one day, just 24 hours? What would it be?
You will laugh because I've mentioned this a few times, and I want to just sleep on call. Like if I want to go to sleep right now, I want to sleep right now. I'm like, take 15-minute nap, go take a 15-minute. But then I also want to wake up from it, because that's the downside of taking naps, is that they could go bad really easily, especially if you're extremely tired. But my superpower is to sleep whenever I need to sleep at all times. And it was funny because I was thinking, like, what do I want? Do I want lasers? Do I want, like flying or anything? And I kept thinking, I just want to sleep whenever. That would be my superpower.
I want to sleep for 15 minutes, but it makes me feel like I slept for 8 hours.
Yes. Something like that. Something where it's like you feel refreshed.
All right. What's one fact about you that not a lot of people know about?
I think because I'm an English person, they assume that I hate math, and that's not true. I'm actually, I love math.
You're a tech girl. You love tech. Come on.
I do. But I think a lot of people, before I even did this, are like, oh, English people hate math. And I was like, no, I actually love math. English is math, like you start looking at the logical side of creating syntax and whatnot. So I think that is one thing that's actually pretty shocking for people. I mean, now that I'm in tech, they obviously see that that's something that I enjoy and I love. But initially, I think that's right away. The assumption is that I don't like math, but I do. I'm not good at taking tests, but everything else I can do.
So I agree with you. I believe words is a correlation to numbers, because every word has a number that relates to a meaning.
Exactly. It really is. I agree.
So yeah, I love numbers. I think numbers are the bomb, and I think words rock too. So I get it. I get the combination of loving both.
Yes. So that is one thing that people wouldn't know about me.
All right. Book. What is one of your favorite books?
Oh, so that's a tough question to ask me, because there's so many in different genres and fields and lives, different times of my life. They were different. One of the books that kind of reaffirmed my love of reading and storytelling is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. And that I read when I was 18. I was a community college student, and I just fell in love with reading. I also read, I've always been a fan of reading. I think since my parents could vouch for that. I was always a reader. But that Cat's Cradle book was kind of like, I love this world, I love the world of that's out there. And then as I grew and read more, I realized Caramelo by Sandra Cisneros was one that's the first time I read a book that had families like mine there. And it was so affirming and reaffirming, because so many times there's never stories about people like me, or at least not stories where it had such a positive world, the bridging of two cultures and what that means for somebody like me and for Sandra Cisneros, the author. So those were two that kind of stood out to me, and both of them I read in college. So there was a moment of growth for me then.
And what's the name of the book again?
Caramelo. And it's actually talking about caramel skin. So it was another thing where it's like who we are and the color of our skin is beautiful like caramel. Instead of, having something negative connected to it, it was a beautiful link to our skin tone. So it's beautiful.
Oh, that is gorgeous. All
Yes.
right. All right. What about a favorite song?
There's so many. And actually it was inspiration for my social media post. I think I'm a Bob Marley fan. It's Three Little Birds is actually a song I remember connecting with when I lived in South Korea. There was a lot of um, growth for me there. I left to South Korea because I wanted to just explore the world. I was about 27, but Three Little Birds was like not to worry about a thing. But I also feel like the three is so significant to my life. My daughter, my husband, and I are three, and that song now, again, because your life changes and you grow. While initially it was about like don't worry about a thing, now is for me is like Three Little Birds. It's like this is the three of us. Like we will be three forever.
So sweet. What
Yeah.
about a favorite quote?
Oh, this is one. I use this a lot in school. So my students, if they're listening to this, they'd be tired of it. It's by Sir Juana Inés de la Cruz. She was 17th century nun. And at the time, she became a nun only because that's when women were allowed to read and study. Otherwise, they weren't allowed to explore literature or the sciences. But her quote said, "I don't study to know more, but to ignore less." And actually that resonates with my life, is just like the power of like learning. And it's not about competition. I feel like there's so much in the world. There's enough for everybody. I know that it's easy to get caught up in like the mindset of like more and greed and I need to be the best. And I'm not against healthy competition. I think that's important, but also recognizing that it's about competing with ourselves, about growth and, changing that, but also recognizing like you should study not for the accolades that come with it, including your degrees. You should study because you genuinely want to see the world through a new lens each day. And that's really why I do what I do, why I went into this world. But also how I live my life is just, I don't study to know more, but to ignore less.
That is a fabulous quote. I love that.
She's amazing. Yeah.
And how do you stay motivated?
I'm working on that still.
I love that answer. Oh my God. That is such a true answer. We're all working on that.
Yeah, I think for me, so there's a couple things where I get caught up, the bureaucracy, the legal side, the non-sexy parts of the entrepreneur world can take, like taxes are coming up. So we're all in those trenches, dealing with what's to come and preparing for that. So what I do is always try to do something creative connected to it. So whether I look at designs for our marketing, new marketing designs, where I try to come up with different strategies, where it's one of those things that feeds my soul. Every time I feel like, oh, I got to do something that's not fun right now, like I have to do something. So I do, like having this interview and talking to you all, these are things that keep me motivated, because it is, we do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff a lot more than we do like the really cool fun things. But that's what keeps our business and our companies going, is by doing the things that kind of build the house, but then also doing things like this where we connect with other people who are kind of dealing, living lives like us, like the unknowns. I call the entrepreneur journey the most toxic relationship I've ever had, but I love it at the same time. It's creating something for yourself, which is an amazing thing to do. And looking back at what you've done is just like, I did this. I can't believe I did it. But then also recognizing that you've always had that. So it's having these talks that keeps me motivated. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, you being on here is fabulous. We haven't had an app creator yet. So I think this is especially a financial app creator, which I think will help every female entrepreneur out there. And so
Yes.
with that being said, what is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Of course. So you can go to roscamoneycircle.com. We have all our social handles connected there. You can just click there. You can reach me directly. If you look me up on LinkedIn, Cindy Chavez Swenson, I accept everybody. I'm one of those, I don't know who you are, but join me. But yeah. So if you just go to our website, roscamoneycircle.com, you'll be able to access any of our information there.
Is there anything else you want to share with our female entrepreneurs out there?
I just say, you got to do it. It's easy to stop, but you got to keep going. You made it this far. Pivot, pivot, pivot. So it may not look like how you originally thought this would, but you surround yourself with people. You talk to people. You watch a couple of YouTube videos. Like you just got to keep going. And if it means taking a week off, and if it means resting, if it means like doing some self-care for a few days, and then going back in, do that. But you love what you're doing, and so don't give up, because and you will get some people telling you to give up, like literally will say just stop ahead. And I when I was first starting this journey, some person said that to me, just stop, you'll never be the next Bill Gates. And I responded, I'll be better. Like I'm not trying to be Bill Gates at all. If anything, I'm going to be me. And that is something that you have to have confidence in, is being yourself in this world, and whatever world you're in, and recognizing that your product, even if there's a million out there, doesn't mean you don't do it. And the best analogy that I got for myself to keep going in this tech world is that if you walk into a grocery store and think about all the water bottle companies. There's space for everybody. There's opportunities. There's so many people in the world. There's somebody who's going to use your product or your, whatever it is that you're creating. Someone's out there, and many of people, because again, there doesn't have to just be one company out there. You will always bring your special sauce to it. And that's what you have to remind yourself.
I love the special sauce, because that is key.
It really is. It really is.
Thank you for bringing your special sauce to us today.
You.
I'm going to thank you for being with us. You are just so precious. Oh my God.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this amazing opportunity. I'm beyond grateful. And again, this is what keeps me motivated.
Well, good. I like motivation. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Female Entrepreneurs Magazine. I hope you found inspiration, actionable tips, and a sense of connection with our incredible community of driven women. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share the episode with fellow entrepreneurs who are ready to elevate their game. Remember, your success is just the beginning, and we're here to support you in every step of the way. Until next time, keep shining, keep thriving, and remember, you have the power to create the business and life of your dreams. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.